worse than last year. The AP survey collected the views of 42 private, corporate, and academic economists on a range of indicators. Among their forecasts, the economy will grow 3.2% this year, compared with the 2.7% they forecast in October. That would top last year's estimated growth of less than 3%. You know, what do they mean here by growth? You ever ask yourself these things? I mean, you know, you complain about my terminology. People who don't even want to wade through this one time, you know, who pretend to be resisting it, you know, and refuse to learn what it is even that they're resisting and how to overcome it, how to resolve it, how to solve its injustices against us. They complain about my terminology. Well, that's an easy word to master there, isn't it? You know? Growth. You know exactly what that means, and you understand that statement, don't you? Absolutely not. You don't have the slightest idea what that growth means, that word growth. Simple word, one-syllable word. But you don't understand it. Sure, that's a simple sentence. You understand it. Why? Because it doesn't tell you the slightly more complicated thing, which is the actual truth. That in truth, any growth that we might realize is generally more than offset by increasing costs of artificial indebtedness. So is there even such a thing as true growth against this? Well, in truth, the ability of industry to produce generally increases always through time. Why? Because we perfect processes, we design new machines, we make whatever we do, we make ourselves more efficient at it. So generally, we should prosper to an ever greater degree. Why aren't we? Why are we, you know, when I was a kid, our school book said in the late 1950s, the covers we used to put on our school books used to tell that the greatest problem the world would suffer by 1980 was we would have so much spare time on our hands that we wouldn't possibly know what to do with it. That was the greatest danger to society, they claimed. And in truth, it would be, except for one thing: perpetual, inherently escalated multiplication of artificial indebtedness in proportion to remaining capacity to service debt. That's what robbed us of the ability to prosper to the extent we remain capable of. So have we made headway by our growth, to use the word in a very obtuse sense? No, because there's very few of us can even work any longer. Those who are working only to a fraction of their skills, which could be employed fully. And so we have the conditions around us, which are hardly just reward for our endeavors, or freedom from impediment, unjust impediment, to produce and to prosper to our capabilities and willingness to do so. This is all a matter of a crime against us. So it goes on and makes one final point, it makes one final claim, likewise unqualified. It says, employers will create a net total of 2.2 million jobs. 3 months ago, the economists predicted 1.6 million jobs. So just because their prediction went up, we're better off. Last year, employers added roughly 1.1 million. Well, foreclosure rates are increasing. Is that a result that this is actually succeeding in creating more jobs, or are we falling further behind? You see, this is nothing but false encouragement. And what does it lead to? It leads to one thing and one thing only: ignorance. ignorance. Because if you can stomach a single sentence in the article that I just read, there is something terribly, terribly, terribly wrong with you. All that is a blatant, bald-faced lie. All of it. Every word is a bald-faced lie. These are the words of liars. They wouldn't dare print my retort to this article in this magazine. And they won't do it, or newspaper, and they wouldn't do that in any paper of the world. Why? Because the truth is the only thing that can save us. And what is the Associated Press and all these people that are owned by the same people? What are they about? They're about perpetrating the lie. Just yesterday, I was following Wimbledon, and I was flicking through the channels real quick to set the television to record, a couple of the games yesterday, and as I flicked out of this one tennis channel, a commercial launched. It's a Fox Business News commercial. I like to just play this a second as an example of what's paraded in front of you as news, but which is nothing but further bald-faced lies and propaganda. It's just blatant propaganda. But I'll let you decide that yourself. I mean, it's obvious enough that it is that I really don't feel like I have to defend the statement. But let's just play this article for 1 second here.
This is a Fox Business Network update.
I'm Cheryl Cassoni with the latest from the Fox Business Network. A rebound in manufacturing helping secure a week-long rally in the stock market. The Dow ending up 168 points to 12,582. The Institute for Supply Management's manufacturing index rose to 55.3 in June after a steep drop-off the month before. The better news is helping to convince investors that the recent economic slowdown could have been just a temporary soft patch. And falling gas prices brought buyers back to dealerships in June. Chrysler reporting its best U.S. sales in 4 years, up 30%. Ford said sales rose nearly 14% from last year, and sales for GM rose 11%. I'm Cheryl Cassoni. You can catch me on the Fox Business Network weekdays at noon Eastern. And be sure to check out the Fox Business Network every day starting at 5 a.m. Eastern. To find the Fox Business Network in your area, log on to foxbusiness.com or contact your cable provider. The Fox Business Network, giving you the power to prosper.
Now that was a commercial at a tennis event. What in the world would Fox Purported News be doing advertising at tennis this falsified information about the huge lie of economy? Now, this whole little tirade there, display was profusely populated with cute looks and and squeaky voices and winks. And what is this doing on a tennis program? What is a purported news agency falsely telling us that the recent downturn? You chart the multiplication of indebtedness since the beginning of this second lifespan of the huge lie of the Federal Reserve System, which is neither federal nor a reserve of anything. You chart its multiplication of artificial indebtedness since its second beginning at the end of World War II. And you tell me this is just a recent soft patch. You look at the steep upward slope of the debt, of the accumulation of indebtedness at the present time, and you tell me how we're possibly keeping pace with it. How can this be a recent downturn when it's been an ever-escalating downturn, and can only be an ever-escalating downturn throughout the entire lifespan, each finite lifespan of an inherently terminal system? How can this just be a recent downturn? The lies are just, there's so many. it's just a recent slowdown. This has encouraged investors. Now, who's investing? When you buy a stock or a security, you're not investing. In truth, if we funded government under mathematically perfected economy, there would be no multiplication of federal indebtedness. None. Why would we think we need investors to prop up a government? Why would we call it investment when buying federal bonds, for instance, only multiplies the indebtedness of the people perpetually and at an inherently escalating rate, all for naught, when we could just simply issue our promissory obligations and proper taxation would cause us to pay that money out of circulation as we consumed of the federal infrastructures or whatever ostensible government services are actually indeed provided. This is an investment. This is exploitation. We don't invest in a corporation when we buy stocks, unless those stocks are issued the first time, unless we buy them the first time. Then and alone are we investing in the corporation. After that, the corporation never gets a penny. And why would we want to do it that way either? Because if we did this under mathematically perfected economy, you wouldn't need any investors, and you wouldn't have to be providing product at the additional expense of paying the dividends to all these investors. Moreover, neither would business decisions be decided by what has to be earned for the stockholders. The stockholders produce nothing. But what are they doing in turn? Besides the fact that they're not investing at all, so this commercial we just listened to was a huge lie. What are they doing but trying to protect their earnings from a system which can only destroy those earnings? Under mathematically perfected economy, they would have no need to protect their savings. So all this is a huge lie, and it's given with winks and cute looks by a fancy lady, ostensibly serving us by encouraging us that, hey, we're all going to be all right. Never mind how. Never mind that that's impossible. Mind instead that I winked at you, and that confirms it to you. Every day it's more unbelievable. But how do we see through these things? Do we just understand that those things are all wrong because somebody told us it's a Ponzi scheme? We have to think about everything that we hear. We can't just say that we know these are lies because we know some of the lies. We have to understand why it is we're being lied to. Because this is the thing that proves that we are denied representation. That government isn't calling me and saying, just a few days ago we attempted to establish dialogue with a top person in Greece. Greece needs our help as much, well, more so than most countries in the world. And this man is supposed to be a principled man. And you would think from the article that we read, if he was truly principled, as, it was said that, he believes that all this is wrong, but he doesn't know how. He doesn't say how. He doesn't declare that there is a solution. He only knows that austerity is impossible. And why is it impossible? Because you can't service these debts. We're on the brink of terminal failure. If you increase our costs further, which is totally unjustified because of the way that government is financed, by issuing bonds subject to, dividends, interest, you see.